Happy game day, everyone, and welcome to Before the Basket presented by Iowa TV Sports. I'm your host, Audrey Hausberger, joined with Brianna Ballog and Abby Haymond. Guys, are you ready to talk about some women's basketball today?
Yes, can't wait. Thank you for having us.
Oh, yes. Very excited about it. But first, let's take a look at how IU went on the road to beat in-state rival Purdue by over 20 points. To Mackey Arena we go. Early in the first, Purdue's defense bombarding Yarningare's zone, leaving Chloe Moore-McNeil all alone beyond the arc, and she takes advantage. Now Moore-McNeil, this time with a steal from Purdue's Abby Ellis. She takes it up the court, sees Sydney Parrish sneakily fall back, and the Hoosier-born nails the three to give IU an early lead. Something you don't usually see, a Mackenzie Holmes three-pointer. It sticks, and the Hoosiers are up 41-28 in the third. IU ends up taking the dub 69-46 against Purdue. Here's what Purdue head coach Katie Geralds had to say.
Give all the credit in the world to Indiana. They are by far the best team in our league. I know there's some teams chasing them, but man, they do not hurt themselves. They don't beat themselves. They've got all the weapons out there.
Okay, guys. So Purdue knew that they were not supposed to win this game. They said so in the press conference, but they honestly gave IU a run for their money in the first. IU was only up by 5 at halftime. So what did you guys see in the first that kind of surprised you, Bree?
I was surprised, but I also wasn't surprised that Purdue was going to double team Mackenzie Holmes. They held her to just 2 points the entire first half, which I thought Indiana was going to maybe try to find a way around that. But Chloe Moore-McNeil, I mean, she helped the Hoosiers out.
Yeah, that's who I was going to say. I think we saw an incredible performance from Chloe Moore-McNeil in the first half. She had 13 points, which is unlike her from that early in the game.
Right.
But overall, it honestly wasn't a great performance from either team, especially from Indiana. But they definitely got it together and completely turned things around in the second half.
Right, you just said it. They did end up getting it together. Again, it was that third quarter magic that they held Purdue to only 2 points in that third quarter. So what kind of changed for you guys?
Yeah, the third quarter, they came out after halftime, almost a completely different team. We just saw the defensive performance step up so much. Right. I was so impressed.
Yeah, you could really tell the tone switched from the first half into the second half. They were working the ball into Mackenzie Holmes, and she scored 6 points in just 2 minutes. And she made that three, as they showed in the highlights, which was her second made triple of the season.
Yeah, I don't know what they say in the locker room, but they figure it out if they're not doing well in the first. But now Purdue may be the in-state rival with IU, but the Indiana-Iowa rivalry has ramped up quite a bit in recent years, with both teams finding themselves at the top of the Big Ten year after year. Let's take a look at Iowa's highlights of their most recent game against Penn State. And who else but Caitlin Clark to get the highlights rolling. She was off to the races with a behind-the-back no-look pass to McKenna Warnock, and she lays it in. Clark with another speedy dribble, but this time she takes it herself way out from beyond the arc, but she's Caitlin Clark, so of course she sinks it. Third quarter now, Iowa continuing with the fast pace, pushing it to Hannah Stolke for the easy fast break layup, and an effective inbound play eventually finds Taylor McCabe for a three. Iowa takes it 95-51. There is no doubt that Iowa is a dangerous opponent, so here is what IU head coach Terry Morin thinks is a must in order to take down Iowa.
We just have to be true to who we are and lock in on the game plan and lock in on, each one of those players, give them different looks, control the boards, control the pace of the game throughout, take good shots, not have any live ball turnovers where they can get run outs because they like to run as well. So a lot of the things that, are going to have to happen, in the game tomorrow, in my opinion, are not going to be things that you're going to find on a stat sheet. They're going to be other things, the intangible things.
So IU lost to Iowa 3 times last season, and the last time they lost to them was in the Big Ten Championship, which had to have been frustrating. How do you guys think IU is going to come at this game mentally? Do you think there will be a sense of revenge on the line?
Honestly, I think that maybe there might be a slight bit of that in the back of the minds of those returning players, but as we know, this is a completely different team this year. They have different weapons, and Terry Morin, we hear her say every single press conference that they are just going to treat every single game like it is the most important game of the season. So I think they will face it head on like that and try not to let those emotions and that revenge aspect get into play.
Right, I can completely agree with you, Abby. I feel like Indiana's going to approach it just like they would any other kind of game. As Abby said, Terry Morin constantly preaches they take it one game at a time. But of course they're going to have a little bit in the back of their mind because this is a big game.
Right. They know exactly who they're going up against. So because Iowa has a lot of weapons on their team, most notably Monica Sonano and Caitlin Clark, of course. How is IU going to keep those two at bay?
Well, Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark. She's an effective shooter, and she always finds ways to make shots. But Indiana's going to have to find a way to get Iowa out of rhythm early and stop players like Monica and Caitlin and kind of get them out of sorts.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Caitlin Clark, she is one of the best in the country. She's averaging 27 points right now, and in every single game that they have had this season, that's 23 games, she has scored at least a double-double, 9 triple-doubles. Like, she's going to find ways to get those shots. She's going to find ways to score points. So I think if they can get them out of that groove and that rhythm early, then they'll be able to get their foot in the door for a win.
Right, and I just wanted to point out, we talked how Caitlin Clark is so good at three-pointers. She has 74 three-pointers this season.
It's insane.
And if you look at IU's three-point machine, Yarden Garzone, she has 53.
Yeah.
Which is, that number in itself is crazy. But Caitlin Clark has 74. Mm-hmm. Like, that's going to be a dangerous weapon that IU needs to keep an eye on. But on IU's terms, what players do you kind of hope to see stand out tomorrow?
Yeah, honestly, you just mentioned it. My pick is Yarden Garzone. I think if she is able to get into that groove, sometimes she's in it, sometimes she's not. But when she's in, she makes those three-pointers. She can compete to an extent to Iowa's players, to Caitlin Clark. I think obviously everybody's going to have to step up, but if she, and honestly Sarah Scalia, we've seen her recently come out of that kind of slump she was in. She's also another one that can sink those threes when she needs to. So I think those two players, it's going to fall a lot on more than we've seen them the past few games.
Yeah, I also think Yarden Garzone, I mean, when she gets into that rhythm and she's hitting those threes, I think that's going to be a real beneficial to Indiana since Caitlin Clark, we see how efficient she is from threes. And at the game against Purdue, Yarden, she went 0 for 4 from the three-point, and she only had 6 points. So I think from that game into this game, I feel like she's going to be due.
Yeah.
So
sometimes it's on.
Sometimes
it's off. Yeah, she's just got to turn it on this time.
Everyone has to be on tomorrow.
Yeah,
A game. Indiana. So thank you guys for talking about this competitive game we're going to see tomorrow. But that does it for our show this week. For our crew of Evan Kamikow, I am the lovely Brianna Ballog and Abby Haymond. I am Audrey Hausberger. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Before the Basket. Will Indiana knock a 3-game losing streak against Iowa? Tip-off is set for 6:30 in Assembly Hall.